Scorpio. Something sacred, heavy, and unbelievably powerful is circling your name right now. And if you're hearing this, it's not random noise in the universe. It's a direct call to your spirit. This November is carrying the energy of a karmic ending, a wave of divine justice, and the release of a lot of money that has been spiritually circling you for far too long, waiting for the right moment to land. You didn't just click a video, your soul answered a summons. Somewhere inside you, even before you press play, you could feel it. A strange pressure in your chest, vivid dreams that feel more like messages than stories, memories and faces from the past drifting back into your awareness, not to haunt you, but to be finally laid to rest. This isn't chaos. This isn't coincidence. This is alignment. You, Scorpio, are the sign of deep transformation, spiritual death and rebirth, and November is activating that archetype in a way that touches your heart, your bank account, and your destiny all at once. Take a slow breath with me and let your shoulders drop for a second. You don't have to pretend to be fine here. You don't have to act like what you went through didn't leave a mark. The universe knows exactly what you paid, what you lost, and what you carried in silence. And this is the month where the scales start to move. Energetically, there is a closing of a karmic book. A chapter in which you carried too much responsibility, gave too much benefit of the doubt, and stayed loyal to people, jobs, and stories that were quietly draining you while pretending to support you. The cards around you now speak of an ending that is not meant to break you, but to free you. An ending of spiritual contracts that were built on unequal exchange, an ending of patterns that kept you small so others could feel bigger, an ending of that old version of you who believed you had to earn love, earn safety, earn provision by sacrificing your own peace. This is the karmic ending in November. Not a random collapse, but a deliberate collapse of what has been out of balance for too long. Some of you have been feeling like something in your life is reaching its natural limit, a connection that feels heavier than it ever gives, a workplace that praises your effort but never rewards it fairly, a family or social dynamic where your role is to be the strong one, the quiet one, the one who fixes everything while nobody notices you're breaking. That feeling of, I can't do this like this anymore, is not weakness. It is the soul ringing the final bell on a karmic cycle that has run its course. This November energy doesn't ask you to burn everything down in one dramatic move. It invites you to quietly, firmly say no more to what keeps you stuck in survival mode. The death energy in your field now is symbolic. It's the burial of your old identity as the one who always absorbs the blow, who always goes last, who always feels guilty for wanting more. You may find yourself remembering moments from years ago where you were betrayed, underpaid, overlooked, or used. Not because the universe wants you to relive your pain, but because it wants you to finally recognize that none of those situations were proof that you were unworthy. They were proof that you were learning where your boundaries needed to be. And as this karmic chapter closes, something else begins to move. The energy of divine justice. Divine justice is not about revenge or punishment. It isn't about hoping that the people who hurt you get what they deserve. It is about the universe quietly returning to balance. It's the moment when lies can no longer hold their shape, when stolen opportunities find their way back in a different form, when what you sowed in integrity starts to circle back with interest. In this November cycle, you may notice conversations resurfacing, truths being spoken that were once swallowed, or situations being revisited with completely different power dynamics, this time with you standing in your worth. For some Scorpios, divine justice might look like a long-delayed payment finally being processed, a refund or compensation you forgot about resurfacing, or a work situation shifting so that your effort is seen and rewarded. For others, it could arrive as closure, someone admitting what really happened, an apology you never thought you'd hear, or simply your own heart finally letting go of the need for an apology altogether. But beneath all of that is a deeper justice, the restoration of self-respect. You will begin to see very clearly who was benefiting from your confusion, your guilt, your inability to say no, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. That clarity is divine justice too. It means you are no longer so easy to manipulate. It means you now recognize that someone can speak softly but still drain you, that someone can smile and still sabotage you, that not every offer is generous just because it looks shiny on the surface. As this awareness rises, something in your energy field shifts, and this is where the money comes in. A lot of money in your reading is not a lottery ticket falling from the sky. It is the unblocking of what has been held back by confusion, fear, or entanglement. When your boundaries were weak, your channels for receiving were weak. When you constantly overgave, your energy was too scattered to hold and grow what came in. When you stayed in spaces where you were not valued, you unconsciously agreed to a ceiling on your abundance. November is about lifting that ceiling. This can show up in many ways. A job offer that pays more than you thought you could ask for, a side project suddenly becoming profitable, a client or customer returning with a bigger opportunity, an old skill you nearly dismissed becoming the bridge to new income, or even a simple but powerful shift in your spending and saving habits that leaves you with more room to breathe than you've had in years. The important thing is this. The money that begins to flow toward you in this season is not random. It's a reflection of your internal decision to stop treating yourself like an afterthought. You may find yourself intuitively cleaning your space, organizing your finances, or finally canceling subscriptions, agreements, or obligations that don't feel aligned. That is energy work too. Clearing clutter is clearing channels. Choosing to say, "I'm not available for crumbs," is choosing to become a match for the feast. The law of attraction responds to your emotional truth. When you stop identifying with lack, the opportunities that once bounced off your field begin to stick. Some of you will experience this as a sudden click, a creative idea that finally makes sense, a conversation that leads to a collaboration, a business or career move that feels risky but deeply right. And yes, for some, there can be literal financial breakthroughs, debt reduced, payments received, surprising checks, or profitable chances that seem to appear out of nowhere. But remember, Scorpio, nothing truly comes out of nowhere. It comes out of the unseen, out of the prayers whispered when nobody was watching, out of the nights you chose not to give up, out of the kindness and integrity you maintained even when it cost you. This is what a lot of money means in a spiritual context, energy that finally has permission to become tangible. The universe does not simply send you currency, it sends you responsibility. That's why, as new resources come in, you're being invited to hold them differently. Not as proof you're finally worthy, but as tools for building the life that already matches who you really are. So this November, ask yourself, if extra money, extra support, extra opportunity arrived today, how would I treat it? Would I rush to get rid of it, giving and spending until I'm back at zero because I'm more comfortable with emptiness than abundance? Or would I allow myself to breathe, to plan, to keep some of that blessing for my future self, knowing that I don't have to earn the right to feel safe? The karmic ending in your field says, the story where you are always last, always struggling, always compensating for everyone else, that story is ready to be buried. The divine justice says, the story where you were always the victim of other people's choices, that story is being rewritten too, because now you see why you stayed and you're choosing differently. And the money says, I'm not your savior, I am your mirror. When you rise in self-worth, I become easier to hold. You may notice that certain people seem uncomfortable when your luck begins to turn. Watch this closely. Divine justice often reveals not just who hurt you, but who quietly enjoyed your disadvantage. When those financial or emotional upgrades begin to appear, pay attention to who encourages you to expand and who subtly tries to pull you back to the old version of yourself. That contrast is part of your protection. It shows you whose energy cannot travel with you into the next chapter. Remember, Scorpio, not everyone is meant to sit at your table in this new season. Some were only meant to stand at the doorway of your transformation, teaching you what you will never again accept. Emotionally, this November may feel intense. There can be days where you feel strangely nostalgic, where you remember old versions of yourself like ghosts passing in a mirror. There can be nights where tears come for no obvious reason. That is not you falling apart. That is your nervous system letting go after years of holding everything together. Let the tears fall without judging them. Let the memories wash through you. You are not meant to repress what happened. You are meant to let it leave your body. You might find it healing to write a letter you'll never send, to a person who wronged you, to a younger version of yourself, to the you who stayed too long. You can write out everything you never got to say, then burn or tear the letter as a symbolic act of burial. This is not about erasing the past. It's about closing the loop so it doesn't keep looping through your future. Your power as Scorpio is your capacity to go deeper than most and still rise. But rising now doesn't mean wearing armor. It means wearing truth. It means choosing to move differently with the wisdom you've earned. You are not obligated to remain in environments that trigger old wounds just to prove how strong you are. Strength is not staying in the fire. Strength is knowing when you've learned enough from the flames. Energetically, many of you will feel drawn to certain numbers and colors this month, not as superstitious signs, but as subtle reminders of your path. You may notice the number 8 or 88 appearing more often on receipts, clocks, or random screens, echoing themes of karmic return and financial flow. You might see 1111 or 1010, nudging you to pay attention to your thoughts at the moment of seeing them, because those thoughts are creating blueprints. Deep burgundy, emerald green, and gold may feel especially soothing or empowering to you now, reflecting transformation, grounded wealth, and divine worth. Surrounding yourself with these colors in clothes, candles, decor can act like a soft ritual, keeping your subconscious aligned with the energy you're stepping into. Even simple practices like lighting a candle before you check your bank account, taking 3 slow breaths before making a financial decision, or placing your hand on your heart and saying, I am safe to receive, can help steady your energy as things begin to shift. You are not just calling in a lot of money. You are building a new relationship with money, one that does not rely on fear or deprivation, but on clarity and choice. And as all this unfolds, there is something important your higher self wants you to remember. This reading is not a command written in stone, but a mirror reflecting one powerful possibility for your path. These words are not here to replace your own discernment, your own wisdom, or any professional advice you may need in the areas of finance, health, or life decisions. They are here to spark recognition, to invite reflection, to remind you that you are not powerless inside your own story. This narrative is a mirror, a reflection of a potential timeline, a story whispered into the universe for those who are meant to hear it in this exact moment. It is a journey into possibility, a thought experiment for the soul dressed in the language of tarot, astrology, and intuition. If this story resonates with you, Scorpio, if it awakens something old and luminous in your intuition and makes you feel seen in a way you haven't felt in a long time, then take what you need and hold it close. Let the parts that feel true become prayers, plans, and gentle actions. If it does not resonate, simply let it drift past you like a cloud across a November sky, knowing that not every message is meant for every heart, and that your own inner guidance is always the final voice. You are the one walking your path. You are the one choosing which doors to open. So now I want to turn this moment into a living ritual with you. If your spirit is humming with recognition, if something in you is quietly whispering, "This is about me," then claim it in your own way. Type in the comments, "I accept divine justice. I am ready for my karmic ending and my abundant beginning," or simply write, "I am ready to receive more than I lost." Let that be your signature in the energy of this message, not because a sentence on a screen magically changes everything, but because your willingness to declare it marks a shift inside you. This is how transformation begins. Not always with big dramatic scenes, but with small, honest agreements between you and your own soul. As you move through the rest of this month, pay attention to the doors that close gently and the ones that open with surprising ease. Don't chase what feels heavy and confusing. Follow what feels clear, grounded, and quietly right, even if it doesn't look as glamorous from the outside. The karmic ending is the closing of the door that keeps slicing your hand every time you try to walk through it. The divine justice is the realization that you never needed that door to begin with, and the money, the opportunities, the support, the resources is the confirmation that when you stop settling for survival, life has room to bring you more. Scorpio, you were never meant to live your entire life in emotional debt, spiritual debt, or financial debt to those who misused your loyalty. You are meant to move into a season where your depth builds kingdoms, where your intuition guides you into aligned partnerships and wise decisions, and where your heart no longer has to choose between peace and provision. This November is not a magic fix, but it is a portal, a turning point where your choices can begin to fully align with the person you've quietly become through every storm you survived. If this message touched you, consider it a sign that you are already in motion. Breathe into that. Let yourself feel a little lighter, even if nothing outside of you has changed yet. Change often begins in the invisible, and then, all at once, it shows up in your bank balance, in your relationships, in the way you look at yourself in the mirror. You are stepping into a time where a lot of money, a final karmic ending, and a wave of divine justice are not fairy tales, but reflections of an inner truth. You are no longer willing to betray yourself to keep old stories alive. You are ready to be fully compensated, spiritually and materially, for the person you have become. And you, Scorpio, more than deserve it.